I don't know why you're doing this. This makes no bloody difference to you at all, does it? But so this is something that I've always been aware of, but not really sort of ever spoken about. And I think, unfortunately, it's something that, to a degree, I've always kind of taken for granted, and it's a bit wrong to have done that. So, as you have seen, really, from like the title, I mean, this is a very, this as an interest, just the playing side of it is kind of quite socially, socially difficult and socially awkward sometimes, and you can only really ever get away with it if you are. If you don't have, a room like this, then you're forced to either I really hire a room, or long term sort of hire a room, or go down there on a daily basis, hire a room, or basically play at home. And I was always lucky enough. My parents. Playing drums wasn't the first instrument that I played. I started off when I was, I don't know, maybe about 10. I started off playing the recorder. Then I moved on to the treble recorder, which is basically just a larger version if you don't know what the treble is. Then I started to learn the flute when I was in secondary school, and I got to, I did, there was 3 people in the class, and to be honest, I never took it very seriously, and the teacher kind of reciprocated that in the fact that he never took me very seriously. And I kind of sort of gave up with it in the end. But I remember when I first started becoming interested in drums, it was about 1985. And I may have covered this before, actually. I'm not sure if I have or I haven't. But I used to do a paper round from the time I was about 12 or 13. Which would be around that time, about 1985. And I used to sit and wait for my papers to be all sorted out for me in the shop. I used to basically get in there a little early, and I'd sit on the side, and I'd just wait for the papers. And when they were ready, I'd, take them off and do that. But I remember that I used to sit there, and I used to sit right next to the bottom shelf of the magazines where all the music stuff was. And I remember Rhythm magazine, and the first one I ever saw. Now I subsequently gave that copy to a mate of mine, and he lost it, but I did manage to get another one later on. It was the edition of Rhythm magazine from about November 1985. And it had Nigel Glockler of Saxon on the front. Now, I know some of you in the UK will remember that. But that was the first time I really ever noticed drums. Sitting there, reading that every day, while I was waiting for my newspapers to be sorted out. And I remember after I started playing the drums, I think I saved up a little bit, and I got a snare drum from a shop sort of long gone, but fairly sort of local. I remember going down with my dad on the bus, and then we to the shop, and then we got the shop, and I remember asking him. And it seems a bit silly now, but in context, it actually wasn't quite so daft. But I remember my dad phoning the shop up, and I remember saying to my dad, "Make sure it's got a big top rim." Now, these days that does sound a little daft, and the reason why I asked him that was because certainly Premier used to do a die-cast hoop that was actually quite low profile. And I did have one or two of those. I did have one or two drums that actually did have that very low profile hoop. In fact, I think I've still got a drum in the other room which has got one of those low profile die cast hoops on it. And where on a normal snare drum these days you've probably got about a centimetre of like, you know, hoop to actually do a cross stick on, this one was actually a lot lower. I mean, I'd go and dig it out, but it's not worth the effort. But I remember asking my dad, you know, to sort of, oh, make sure it's got that, and I've still got the drum, although it's in many pieces now. I used it as a timbale for a long time. It's much more recently, but this was probably about 1986, and I remember going up to the shop. And I remember I've still got, I think I loaned the snare drum stand to someone, although I could still get it back. Or it may be here, actually, I don't even realise. It may be here, actually. But it came with a snare drum stand, and obviously I got some sticks. And I remember the guy in the shop doing some little, you know, paradiddles or something on the snare drum just to show me. And I was absolutely thrilled. I mean, I take it home, and like, you know, most kids just sit there and bash away on it, and had so much fun. And it gradually went downhill from there. I saved up a bit more money, and I bought some Paisty 1000 heavy hi-hats. But I couldn't afford a hi-hat stand at the time, so I remember in my room. So my room used to actually have the hatch for the attic in it. So I remember getting some rope, and I remember hanging the cymbal on one end and hanging the other out of or climbing up and pushing the rope through the hatchway, so it was just hanging down and I could hit two of them that way. And I remember also having some metal biscuit tin lids as well, and having those as well as sort of other little cymbal things and everything. Alternatively, I'd have them on bamboo stands. You know, I think when you're young and stupid and just want to get on with things, you kind of just find ways to work things out, and that's cool. And I'd still do that today if I was in that position. In fact, I know people, you know, I've seen on YouTube people do that, and you know what, hat off to them. But the thing is the reason why I mention all that really is because, you know, if you start young, which most of us do, you generally have the support of your parents. And I had great parents because, you know, in the days before in-ear monitors and stuff, like I've just been doing for the last hour and a half, sitting here playing, you know, to just music through me in-ears. Before all that happened, I used to basically just crank the stereo up in my room. And it must have been phenomenally loud, because I lived in a 3-bedroom end of terrace house. And my bedroom was the middle of the three, right next to my parents' room. And it was just loud. You used to be able to hear me, even with the windows closed, you used to be able to hear me up the end of the road, which was about 50 yards or so. It wasn't that long, but you could hear me. And even my next door neighbours were actually quite supportive at the time, because I remember, I remember the lady said, you know, that to keep going because her husband thought I was really good. But you know, it's the thing is I had very, very supportive parents, and the funny thing is, which I still remember to this day, was my mum. I was going out the front door. My mum was sitting at the dining room table, and she turned around and said to me, "Just so long it's not another fad." And 35 years later, well, I think we all know how that one ended up, don't we? But you know, that was something that she said, although she probably wouldn't remember that. I very vividly remember that, and you know, it just stuck with me. But you know, I kind of, after I started gigging and stuff, you know, it's okay when you start playing when you're younger. You don't really hit that hard, and it's probably one of those things you can live with as long as you do it within reasonable hours. But as I said, I had very supportive parents. And but after I started gigging, I kind of stopped playing at home really. And you know, it's one of those things. You do start playing a little bit harder, hitting things a little bit harder, and you know, overall it becomes a little more difficult. And I think to a degree, I just didn't want to play at home. And it was easier when I was younger. I just had like, well, I think I had 2 kits at that point, but my first kit, which I eventually gave away, and the XPK, which kind of I've still got. But you know, it's one of those things. As I said, you kind of, as you grow up, you kind of don't want to really play at home, and you don't really want to make too much noise. You don't want to you become more self-conscious in many ways. But now, when I've not had a huge amount of relationships in my life. No real particular reason other than I just never really sort of was very good at pursuing it. So, you know, my first girlfriend, she used to come to gigs and stuff. But you know, we weren't together a tremendously long time, but you know, she used to come to gigs and stuff when she wanted to. And then the girl I was with, after that, I think she thought for a while it was kind of cool to be, you know, going out with a drummer and everything until she had her house and I was sort of mostly living with her, but also working out my parents' house. So most of my drums and things were at my parents' house until I had a little tiny sort of 2-piece drum kit in the bedroom at her house, and I think eventually that started to annoy her and yeah, many other things as well. But I think she kind of fell out of love of the idea of being with a drummer. And then the girl I basically met after that is the girl I'm now married to. She's always been phenomenally supportive. I think again she likes the idea of being with a drummer, but I don't know why. But she has been phenomenally supportive. Now, I will say that most of the stuff, well, I'll say probably about half of the stuff you've possibly seen in other videos, I had by the time I met her. And it has all really gone downhill a lot in the last 9 years. In terms of like everything just sort of exploding much more. But you know, I've been able to do all of this, everything that you've seen. I've been able to do this for a multitude of reasons. Taking out the financial aspect of it, which I've spoken sort of about before. You know, we specifically bought this house because it had these 2 rooms, this building on the property, and it takes a special kind of person to go that distance with you and travel that path with you, and be that supportive of you. And I think, you know, I've not got many drums in the house. For the most part, I generally don't. You know, I've got 6 drums in the house. I've got one on a display stand, which is the Gold Triumphal, and then I have 5 other drums in another stand in the front room, in a nice big glass cabinet, really. And they're the only drums really that are in the house. You know what? It takes a special kind of person to put up with all of that crap. And I have a phenomenal wife who's been nothing but supportive of me and my endeavours and my craziness as well. And she never says anything. I know people possibly won't believe this, but my wife never says anything when I say, "Oh, I've just bought another drum kit." And I'm sure a lot of people's spouses would go absolutely nuts. She doesn't bat an eyelid. And and I think that's amazing, really. I mean, I try and be, I do my best to be supportive, and if she had any hobbies like this, I'd be supportive of her. But I think it takes an amazing person to be supportive of the life that we choose to lead. I mean, I don't do this for a living, which I suppose in many ways has its pluses and minuses. Pluses being that I'm not out every night or a lot of nights every week, and minuses in respect of I don't know, but I'm certainly around a lot more than I would be if I was playing every night. But I just think I don't know really what the point of this video was. I mean, I just think I think it's important to acknowledge and be grateful to family, friends, and particularly husbands, wives, partners, whatever. Because certainly for me, I wouldn't be able to do all this had it not been for my wife. I think that's it. So thank you, Lisa. Not that you're going to watch this, but thank you. I really do definitely appreciate it. I'll see you later.